going, everyone? Aidan Michaels here with Jack Weisberg. Another unnamed podcast episode. We don't have a name for it yet. We won't probably for the next couple of episodes because we can't think of one. We can't think of a good name, but hopefully we come up with one soon. But the idea of this show is it's just going to be a weekly recap of what's going on in the sports world. It's a good way for us to follow other sports. For baseball, for example, we're not the biggest baseball fans, but we like to get into the Dodgers once in a while. But first of all, we want to talk about the NFL draft. Obviously, one of the bigger things to happen in the last week in sports. And we'll start off by saying this was an NFL record for highest attendance at an NFL draft. They had over 275,000 people on the first day. And then combined, they had over 700,000 people in attendance. I mean, the European mind can't comprehend 700,000 people gathering around to hear people call a name off of a card. But the fans showed out
In Detroit.
in Detroit.
Less.
But it was a really good show out. I usually don't watch the NFL draft, honestly. I kind of just follow along, but I was watching it. And it was a fun watch, and it was a high anticipated draft. Caleb Williams going number one to the Bears, and I want to talk about that because there were rumors that Williams said he didn't want to play in Chicago, so maybe the Bears were gonna trade away their pick if the right stuff came along. And obviously, they traded away Justin Fields to Pittsburgh, which made it clear that they were going to go for Williams before all this controversy started. But in the end, Bears went with Williams. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. I hate the guy personally, but I understand why they like him. He's a great prospect. Um, I mean, what really puzzled me, obviously, Caleb Williams, you got to pick him at number one. But you take a Doomsday at 9, which like sort of makes sense, but it's also like Caleb needs a line. He had a line at USC and still wasn't, there wasn't a very winning player. And I just think that the pick at 9 should have been offensive tackle.
I could see that, and I understand. We have to understand that Caleb Williams. I mean, USC's defense was terrible. His O line wasn't awful, but I mean, the defense of USC, which again, it's not his fault, was completely awful. So it's not like it's a full change of scenery when it comes to that. But I understand your apprehension on that pick. Why do you hate Caleb Williams? I want to get to that.
I think it's just a personality thing for me. Like a lot of so for me, when I look at Caleb, I look back on guys like Baker Mayfield,
Okay.
guys who are really sure of themselves. Everybody else was pretty sure of him too. I know Baker fell, he has his own story, whatever. Same aura of these two guys. And Caleb thinks he's gonna walk into the NFL and all's gonna be okay. Granted, he has the best weapons that any rookie quarterback has ever been given in NFL history. But some part of me thinks he's going to fail, and I want it to happen.
I obviously don't. I'm a USC fan, so I'm a huge fan of Caleb Williams. Uh, but besides that, I don't understand the hate. I see that he gets hate all the time for his personality. Just going off what you said about he's going in there thinking he's going to be the top guy. And I know already a Bears player, I don't remember the name who it was, maybe you do, but one of the Bears players came out publicly and said something like that, like, hey, Caleb Williams is not going to walk in here and think he's the top guy. This was, a month and a half before the draft even happened, before the Bears even took Caleb Williams. So I get that, and I understand he's not just going to roll in there. And I know a lot of college kids think they have that mindset of, oh, well, I was the best in college. I can roll into the NFL and be the top guy. That's obviously not going to happen. But would you rather have somebody to come into your franchise, which is not doing so well, and say, hey, I'm going to come in here and win games for these guys rather than, oh, we'll see what happens when I get there. Like, he's got the confidence. Don't you want that? Personally, I would want Caleb Williams to come into my franchise and show that he's confident and ready to win and ready to be that guy, then not be that guy. You know what I mean?
I think there's different types of confidence, Aiden, and
Okay.
his confidence is at a level that is going to rub people the wrong way. And it already has prior to his arrival in Chicago. He's
Yeah.
pissed off the defensive backs. And it, I just think it's a matter of time for if he comes in there and he's not immediately performing, making this playoff caliber team, which is what the fans expect. I mean, we've seen crazier happen in the past few years.
We have, and I do think that that is something. Yeah, you're right about that. Which is, even though he has that confidence, which I like, he has set his own standards so high to the point where you're right. If he doesn't live up to it, and the Bears don't become an instant threat or at least a playoff team, it's not going to look good for him. I'm not worried. Again, I'm just a big Caleb Williams fan, so we're on different ends here of the spectrum. It's hard to come at it as a neutral perspective, but I'm a big fan of him. So we'll go down the ladder here. Jaden Daniels to the Commanders, number two. To me, no, I mean that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. I mean, Jaden Daniels is an unbelievable player. Obviously, Heisman winner. So unfortunate that his Tigers beat my Wisconsin Badgers in a bowl game this year, but he's a phenomenal player. I think the Commanders would have been stupid to pick. Not that Drake May is a bad player by any means, but stupid to pick him at number two rather than Daniels at number two. I assume you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Lamar Jackson potential, um, it's a can't miss prospect. And I mean, as a Raider fan, I'm sitting there praying they didn't pick Daniels so that we could go up and grab him. Um, but yeah, I mean, no brainer. Um, but put the Patriots in an interesting position though at three.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that was the right pick to get Drake May?
Um, I think they had no choice. I think the fan base would have gone crazy if they picked Marvin Harrison Jr. because who's throwing to him?
Right. Do you put as much trust in Bailey Zappi as you would in Drake May? Probably not.
I don't even know if Bailey Zappi's on the roster. Like it's I I don't even really know, but yeah, I think they had to make that pick.
Mhm.
There was no other way to go about that.
So you think then, no, for sure you think that Drake May will be their guy this coming season.
I mean, if something tragic happens, then he will not. But uh, we don't see that coming. We see smooth sailing going into the season,
Hmm.
no injuries, no nothing. Drake May's their guy. I don't know how long it will last with some questionable offensive line play.
No more Zeke.
I mean, he could. Oh, I did see that.
Back to Dallas.
Congratulations, by the way.
I don't know. I was talking about it with my dad. I'm not too happy with it, to be honest. I wanted them to draft Braylon Allen instead, but they didn't. And they decided to go with Zeke instead. And let's just hope he has a better year than he did with the Patriots. Granted, the Patriots were terrible, but I don't think he's going to have a better season than Tony Pollard did last year. But
Yeah, I don't think Dallas will be much of a better situation for him. He left the first time for a reason.
exactly, I agree. Uh, so here's a shocking pick for me, which was the number eight overall pick at
Yup.
the Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. Good player, obviously. No one's denying that. But the Falcons just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal, $180 million. And then they draft Penix Jr. It's like, well, who's going to be the starter? Are they going to compete for it? So the situation here is if the Falcons cut Kirk Cousins before 2025, he'll still cost $40 million for them. And this year, he has a no trade clause. So they can't even trade him this season. They're going to have to either cut him, which I don't think they will, or keep Cousins and Penix and then have them battle out for the number one spot. Was this a weird pick for you? Do you think it was a good pick? What are your thoughts on this?
I think there's a number of different ways to look at it, but looking at it face value, it's a pick that's got to be just deflating for the franchise after you had just thought that you got a franchise QB in free agency.
Yep.
Now you're gonna build this defensive line. Now you're gonna Maybe add another piece in the DB room and just really solidify that room, or even go offense and help out Kirk that really has a lot of young pieces. A lot of young guys in that locker room that haven't really proven themselves. So you're gonna rely on those guys and get another QB just to put behind him. I think. I mean, this manager's looking years down the road. When frankly he's not gonna have a job anymore. So is that really a payoff? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's such a weird one because you'll see teams normally go into the draft like, okay, well, we've got, like you said, we've got our guy, Kirk Cousins. Let's build the team around him. Or it's like, hey, we don't have our guy. Let's pick the future of our quarterback and then worry about our options later. They did both. They got their franchise guy and then they picked their future. It's like,
At pick number 8,
yeah,
you had every defensive player on the board available. You
it,
had generational prospects.
it's a weird pick. And obviously the Falcons, they fired their coach. It doesn't make sense to me. I think the Falcons are, we haven't really seen them do anything since they were in the Super Bowl a few years back and blew that lead and whatever, but it's a weird move. It really is a weird move. Especially after they locked up Cousins. And like I said, adding insult to injury, the no trade clause, you can't even trade Cousins for, other assets. And you're not going to trade Penix, I don't think. You'd think that if they were going to even explore that, they would have just traded the pick in itself. But very weird one. That's definitely one of the weirdest picks of that top 10. Very strange. So speaking of Kirk Cousins, we'll go to his old team, the Vikings, who also drafted a quarterback. They went from pick 11, they traded their pick to get number 10, picked the national championship winning quarterback in Ann Arbor, JJ McCarthy. There's some trepidation as to whether JJ McCarthy is NFL ready, whether or not he was still making a lot of big mistakes in college despite leading his team to the national championship. You've got Sam Darnold, who just signed a 1-year deal with the Vikings. Is McCarthy going to be their guy, or is Sam Darnold going to be their guy?
Uh, I think McCarthy can take over that starting role, especially if you pick the guy with the 10th overall pick, which I didn't really think they needed to trade up for. I thought the Broncos knew they were going with next the entire time. But they trade up for that pick, get their QB, and then they trade up again and get one of the best edge rushers in the draft, Dallas Turner. Um, and for me, I just don't see the point of trading up on both of those picks when you could have gotten JJ probably. I don't know, man. I think that the Vikings got their guy, and they're trying to do what the Texans did last year, and it worked out for the Texans.
Good.
They got their QB, and they got what they thought and is the best defensive player in the draft. Um, Vikings were able to do that at picks 10 and 17, so that's
Right.
pretty good.
So you don't think they'd even needed to trade up? You think the Broncos were set at Knicks at 12, do you think?
I think that the way the quarterbacks fell, Penix going 8, if Penix doesn't go 8, I think the Broncos would have traded up at some point, but I don't think they needed to use their first round pick on Knicks, knowing that nobody's picking Knicks in the first round except you.
A lot of the fans weren't happy with Knicks going to the Broncos. I mean, obviously, it's safe to say how poorly it worked out in Denver for Russell Wilson last year. That didn't go to plan, and then obviously, they trade him to Pittsburgh. Then you get Zach Wilson. He comes to Denver. He's one of those guys where he's got that potential, but he certainly hasn't lived up to it. It's tough, when he was on the Jets, then they bring in Aaron Rodgers and whatnot and all that. I know I keep asking these same questions for each team, but it really comes down to this for a lot of these franchises, which is, do you go with Bo Nix or do you go with Zach Wilson? This is a little different because we're not talking about a top 3 pick now, Williams, Daniels, whoever. we're now talking about a guy that was picked at 12. A lot of fans aren't happy with it. A lot of fans would prefer Zach Wilson over Bo Nix. That's the question, though. Is it what
Um,
do you do?
Nix is going to be the starter,
Okay.
and I think it's for this simple reason: the Broncos traded a seventh round pick
Hmm.
or a sixth round pick. I'm saying this wrong. Broncos traded um a seventh round pick
Yeah.
to get a sixth round pick and Zach Wilson. So take away Zach Wilson from the trade, and they're moving up 30 spots in the draft.
Right.
I think that screams you are not the starter to me. And I mean, he's got all the talent, but he's shown us that he can't do it on the field. The Broncos are a new situation, but I'm not optimistic about Zach's future.
Yeah, it is a shame to see how these quarterbacks fall. And I'm a Zach Wilson fan. Honestly, I say I'm a Zach Wilson fan. I'm just a fan of a lot of quarterbacks that, have this potential going into the draft and then doesn't really live up to it. I feel the same way about Kenny Pickett. He's now a backup in Jacksonville. I'm like, it's a bit of a shame. But
You have a you have a lot of those as a USC fan, a lot of quarterbacks that don't end up panning out.
oh man, take me back to, was it Matt Barkley?
Yeah,
Didn't do anything. Sam Darnold, we just talked about just signing a 1 year with the Vikings. He'll be a backup. And then obviously, hey, Caleb Williams is going to be the guy, though. I'm telling you. I mean, think about it. This USC, not to like talk too much about college football here, but this USC team that we've seen in the last couple of years with Caleb Williams, it's probably the best USC team we've seen in some time. And I'm not saying it's great because the defense was terrible and it didn't take USC anywhere, and they choked in the Pac-12, and obviously weren't good enough to get to the college football playoff. But Caleb Williams has brought this USC team to places that Darnold, I don't want to say Darnold couldn't because Rose Bowl or whatever, but that Barkley couldn't. I think this is different. I think Williams is the guy. I mean, he's a Heisman winner. He won the Heisman last year. What more do you want? Pac-12
I
championship would have been nice, but
want to see it in the NFL. That's what I want.
well, I suppose we will in several months. All right, so that does it for the draft. We want to go back to hockey, the old bread and butter of who we are. We had a video on, it was a few weeks ago before round one started, our predictions. Things have changed. Things maybe haven't gone so well for us.
Okay.
It's not ideal. Well, first I want to talk about a game that's going to happen in about 30 minutes, which is game 5 of Tampa versus Florida. I picked Tampa in 7. I forget what you picked.
I had Florida in 6, I believe.
Good
I
pick.
definitely had Florida winning the series.
Okay, right. I feel like you and Nate had Florida and I had Tampa. Next thing you know, Florida's up 3-0 in the series. Tampa stays alive, send it to a game 5, which will happen in Sunrise. So Florida will have the home game to try and close out the series, send Tampa home. Um, I know you picked Florida. I know I picked Tampa. Are you surprised with how the series went down as far as Florida going up 3-0?
I mean, yeah. Um, they they won 2 big home games, went away and won a big game, and now they're back at home, right? For a game, what is that,
Game
5?
5, yeah.
Um, I mean, they're gonna win this series. They're gonna do it in 5, and it's it just shows how important it is to win those games at home. And if you can take one of those games away, pretty much got the series in the bag. And am I surprised? Yeah, I'm a little surprised that it wasn't as close as I thought it was going to be. Um, but the Panthers are the real deal.
Listen, they absolutely are, and I'll tell you why I'm surprised because I genuinely, because playoff Tampa is a different beast. I said that in the last video, and I knew Florida they were the better bet. They were the safer bet to win this series, but I picked Tampa because I truly thought that they would put up a huge fight. I mean, I said Tampa in 7, it could go either way. I really thought Tampa would put up a big fight. seeing them play in the first two games, I said, wow. Even after game one, I said, was this the right pick? You know what I mean? And I hate to do that after game one because anything can change. But then, of course, seeing game two and game three, horrible. And then game four, it's like Tampa has a little bit more of a will there than Florida. You know, they obviously Florida wants to sweep, get the rest for round two, which is probably going to be Boston. But you know, it's hard for me to say. I don't think Tampa's going to win the series. Only four times has it happened where a team has come back after being down 3-0. That was, you know, the Kings most recently in 2014. But yeah, it's probably going to go Florida's way, and that's unfortunate because I really thought Tampa were going to put up more of a fight, but they didn't. Another team that stayed alive and stopped themselves from getting swept, the Islanders. The Hurricanes were in double overtime on, I think it was on Saturday. They had a chance to close out the series, and the Islanders stayed alive on home ice and won in double OT.
I mean, that's that boring hockey you were talking about in the
You know,
last episode. The Islanders, they can win games. Even though they are the most boring team in the NHL to watch. They can get one out, and their toughness won them that big game, double overtime. And they needed it. Not that it's gonna matter because they're gonna lose the next game, but yeah, very shocked that the Canes couldn't close that one out.
yeah, going into it, I think I put the Canes in five or six. I kind of gave the Islanders a little more hope. It could easily be a 2-2 series right now, and I hate these hypotheticals, and I don't want to go into them too much, but I will say that the Islanders had a 3-0 lead in was it game three, I think it was, and they blew it. They let up two goals in the final minute, one to tie and then one to lose it. It could easily have been 2-2. And honestly, when you have a 3-0 game in the playoffs, you gotta close it out. I mean, you just have to. It's easy for me to say, but it's Islanders fans are gonna look back on it if they lose the series now, you know, tomorrow or whenever the game is, and say, if we close this one out, we could have had a 2-2 series, and it would have been a completely different situation.
Speaking of 3-0, let's move over to the Western Conference. The Canucks and Predators were in one of the craziest games I've seen playoff hockey in a very long time. Um Down 3-0 in the third period, and the Canucks just slowly chip away, end up getting in overtime, and they stole it. They stole it to go up 3-1. What do you think?
I love it, and I guess as a Kings fan, again, I feel like I'm naturally a little more unbiased, especially in the playoffs, unless it comes to the Kings. But uh, you're supposed to root for the Predators over the Canucks. Obviously, the Kings have a little more of a rivalry with Vancouver, but I love it. I love this Vancouver team. I said in the last video how much I think the fans actually deserve to at least get past the first round. So I was thinking, okay, this is be a 2-2 series. You know, 6 seconds left in the game. Brock Besser completes his hat trick, sends it to OT, Canucks win it. I love it. I mean, that's playoff hockey. I want all the overtime games. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I think now the Canucks will have no problem with winning the series. Do I think Nashville has one more win in them? Yeah, I do. I think they could potentially win this next game, but I do think the Canucks will close it out in either five or six. But I love it personally. I don't know if you, I mean, you're giving me that smile. I feel like you're not a big
I
fan
mean,
of
the
it.
smile is just that I did pick the Predators to win this series, and I
Ah,
really needed them to win game four, and it just didn't end up working out.
you should have picked Vancouver like me. Just
Yeah,
saying.
you know.
Yeah, so staying on the Western Conference, one that kind of shocked me,
Oh
and
God.
I don't think I mean, I know you picked. I'm pretty sure you picked Vegas, but we'll just go to Dallas and Vegas. First two games are in Dallas, and Vegas wins them both. And then we get to Vegas, and Dallas steals one in overtime to at least keep the series close. They'll play tonight. They would have been facing elimination today had they lost in overtime, but they're not. They won. It's a 2-1 series. it looks a little bit closer now. The Stars had a big lead in that game. They lost the lead and then again scraped by in overtime to get the win. But man, the Golden Knights really shot out of a cannon and took those games with authority, those first two games away from home at one of the hardest places to play in when it comes to playoff hockey in Dallas.
I think the Stars are very alive in this series. They stole a big momentum shifting game, um, and it was away. So you have a chance to go in here. I think the game's tonight.
Hmm.
Uh, and tie up the series. I did pick Vegas in this series, and I think it's anyone's series right now. That Dallas just really has to have a good game tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, this is it. If they go down 3-1, it's going to be very tough for them to overcome this Vegas team. But like you said, they're very much alive. A team that maybe isn't so much alive, and I hate to bring this up now, is the Los Angeles Kings. Probably, in my opinion at least, the best game the Kings have played against the Oilers in a very long time when it comes to the playoffs. Certainly the best game the Kings have played in this series, and they lose 1-0. Andreas Englund gets called for a pretty soft hold, but regardless of hold, Kings are 50% on the penalty kill in the series. That is absolutely horrible. Of course, they let up another goal, down 1-0. What's even worse than being 50% on the penalty kill? Being 0% when it comes to the power play. 11 power plays in the series, 0 goals. Kings had a power play, chance to tie the game up yesterday. Couldn't do it. Now it's 3-1. Your thoughts?
I think that what the Kings are doing on the power play and the penalty kill right now is a recipe for disaster. Um, with those stats, it's a shock that the Kings have taken a game. Um, but then you watch the game, and the Kings are dominating the Oilers 5-on-5. They're in their zone. Oilers are fast, but Kings are getting sticks on pucks in the neutral zone, and the Kings were dominating possession. Um, and to lose a game like that, I think that it takes a lot out of you. And just speaking honestly, as a Kings fan, I don't see us bouncing back from that game when we played amazing hockey, got some good shots, and couldn't put any in the net. The same thing happened to the Capitals against the Rangers in game 3. Um, Caps dominated the game and ended up losing 3-1, but they should have been in that game the whole way. And when you lose a game like that, when you're completely in control and it puts you in a tough position in the series, like 3-0 or 3-1 does, it's really hard to come back from.
Kings lost in 7 games in 22 against the Oilers. They lost in 6 games last year. Kings go back to Edmonton for game 5 on Wednesday night. It could be the end of the line there. And it's tough. And we'll talk about that again when we do our round 2 predictions. We'll kind of go or do a little review on that series. It's really unfortunate. It's the fewest shots the Oilers have had in a playoff game, I think, since 2011. It might even just be a game, and they won. And they won. And it's unfortunate because the Kings can only put in a certain number of great performances against this Oilers team. And to put in that performance and still lose, it does a lot for the confidence.
And the backup had a hell of a game. I'm blanking on his name, but he
Oh,
showed up.
Riddick.
Riddick. I mean,
Uh,
you've been asking for good tender play the entire series. With Talbot averaging like 5 goals allowed a game.
yeah,
Even more than that, actually, like a 5.2. And you get the backup in there and he nearly has a shutout and you can't win the game.
it's tough.
Yeah, totally disappointing.
Yeah, and before we go to the next series, Riddick's last outing against Edmonton was a 4-0 shutout. We knew that he's got that, we can't forget like this guy was a big playoff performer in Nashville back when Arvidsson and Fiala were on the Preds. But uh, it's a shame that Riddick played so well, the Kings played so well, and it sucks that it came down to special teams again.
It's a shame that Talbot played in that game 3
Yeah.
where the Kings needed a win and all the fans already knew Talbot's not the guy that's going to get you a win right now. He doesn't know what he's doing out there. He looks stiff. And what do you know? He lets up 6 goals. Not surprising to any of us, but I didn't even know that Reddick's last game was a shutout against the Oilers. Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's I don't want to say that I wish we put Riddick in games 1 and 2, but in games 1, 2, and 3. But it's like looking at this performance, it's like, yeah, maybe you should. But to be fair, again, the Kings held the Oilers to very few shots. So we have to credit the defense on that as well.
yeah.
It wasn't all Riddick. The defense played really well. The offense, they just weren't finishing the chances. The Kings had chances. They weren't very good chances. They weren't quality chances, but they were good enough to at least get a couple of good looks on goal. And again, I'll just say it again, the final, what it really comes down to is Kings let up a power play goal and they couldn't convert on their power play of their own. That's been the story of the series. That's going to be the thing that drives them into the mud. Um, my favorite series so far of the playoffs has been Colorado Winnipeg. Uh, I I had Winnipeg in 7. Colorado looks unbelievable. They have absolutely dominated Winnipeg in 2 games of this series. They won game. What did they win? Game 2, 3, and 4. So they've won the last 3 games after losing that first game, that very tight game. This is unbelievable. The Avs are up 3-1. They have a chance to close out the series and send the Winnipeg Jets, who or this high praised team during the regular season who have the Vezina Trophy winner, the eventual Vezina Trophy winner, we think, Connor Hellebuck, send them packing in 5 games. I mean, I'm surprised. I knew it was going to be a close series, and I knew Colorado had a chance. I didn't think that the Avs were going to kill Winnipeg like this.
Me neither. I also had the Jets winning, I think in 6 maybe. But when you're watching these games, the Avalanche are just they're the better team. They're coming out and I mean pretty much manhandling the Jets in 2 of the 4 games so far. And I think they're gonna close it out.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. So I mean, the series they're starting to come to a close. We got some 3-1 leads. Boston being another team that's got the 3-1 lead over Toronto. Matthews is questionable for game 5 as well, which could be the very end of the line for Toronto. And then, as we expected, the New York Rangers swept the Washington Capitals. I saw some stat where it was like 45% of the time, if a team sweeps in the first round, they've made it to the Stanley Cup final. To me, 45% seems that seems a lot. And I know you could look at the alternatives. Say, well, okay, well, 55% of the time, team doesn't make it to the Stanley Cup final. But it's like the fact that that's a almost a 50-50 is pretty
I
crazy.
mean, if you're sweeping someone, you're most likely the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So you're getting the weakest team in the playoffs, which the Rangers got.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, granted they could have had a better team like the Wings or the Penguins. But ended up with the Caps. And I went to one of these games, and Ovechkin, I'm sorry, he does nothing. He sits in the corner. I love the guy, but I think it's time for him to hang him up. Um, he's a liability to his team, both offensively and defensively. They put him out there on the power play, and he brings absolutely nothing but standing in the corner. It's something that needs to be talked about, so that he can retire and maybe the Caps can bounce back from this and maybe make the playoffs sometime soon, but or win a playoff game sometime soon. But with Ovechkin, I think that this is their ceiling right now.
I agree, and I know. Listen, he's 38. He had no points in that whole series. I don't want him to hang it up yet. And I don't think he does either because he knows that he's that close to Gretzky's record that he's not going to retire for another 2, 3, 4 years. He wants that record. I think he needs 2 seasons with 30 goals to break it.
It's not going to happen.
I think it could if he stays three
You
seasons.
you can see it in him. He he would have to stand in that corner for another maybe even 200 games to reach that. And when you watch him play, it's not there. I don't think he has the miles available on his body to reach that record.
He may not. And only time will tell, I guess. I don't know how your dad feels about it. My dad and my grandpa definitely would rather have Gretzky keep the record, whereas I would rather have Ovechkin take the record just because I think he's somebody that we grew up with
Yep.
watching. And I know obviously Gretzky is the greatest of all time, and I know he broke the record in a Kings jersey, so it's pretty special there. But like Jack, you and I, we grew up with Ovechkin being the guy. Ovechkin and Crosby were kind of the two guys when we were growing up. It's like I would love to see a guy like that break the record. Just for the fact that we saw him growing up.
Exactly the same for me. I'm on the side of like I want my goat to be somebody that came from my generation of growing up and watching sport, just like LeBron, just like Aaron Rodgers, and
Aaron
just like
Rodgers.
Ovechkin. Um, so so yeah, that's I completely agree.
Fair enough. All right. Well, listen, you're the basketball guy out of the two of us, Jack. So I want you to take us in to the first round of the NBA playoffs and pick a matchup, anything you want to talk about. Let's hear it because there's
Let's
a
talk
lot.
with the big one on everybody's mind right now is Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. They're in Cancun. They're gone. Timberwolves sent them home. Ant, Cat, Gobert, and friends. I mean, you look at Ant play. To send him home, you see the dunk?
I did not know.
Oh my God. Ant has Bradley Beal guarding him, does a little shimmy, gone. Dribble, KD's coming to block it. Uh-uh. Dunks on his head with like 2 minutes left to go up like I'm probably saying this wrong, but to go up like five or something, it's like a seal the deal type of move. Bradley Beal sucked in this series. We all knew that was coming. At least I did. But what does this mean for the Suns?
Well, I think I don't know. I know it came out after this sweep that Durant wasn't very happy at many times during the season with how the offense was being run. And I know, Durant's he's one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, certainly of our generation. Uh, what it means for the Suns and what it means for the NBA is I just think that it's a new era. I mean, we're seeing LeBron, down 3-1 in the series, Durant getting swept. Steph has been in Cancun for a long time. Klay Thompson's probably on his way to China. It's like
Yep.
it's sad. It's kind of like this is the end of an era here, and this was one of the biggest things to sort of set that off, which is the Timberwolves and Ant, you know, new guy coming in and getting rid of the old guys.
And if on top of that, Luca can take down Harden, George, and Kawhi, then it's really the end of the era that all these uh 2000 to 2005 kids really know.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I think the Suns are in they're in a really bad place just as a franchise going all in and getting swept in the first round, but the Timberwolves have really turned ship around. And they have a bright future. I think even in these playoffs, I think that they have a legitimate chance to beat the Nuggets.
Speaking of, did the Lakers have a chance? Be honest.
Listen. So I saw something today right before we hopped on.
Yeah.
LeBron came back from 3-1 in 2016. Okay. Right. The year is 2024.
Yeah.
Right. It's been 8 years since LeBron came back from 3-1.
Go on.
Uh, so it's been 8 years. 8 years is Kobe's first number. 2024. 24. Kobe Bryant. So people are saying that the Lakers are going to come back, but no, I don't think this is something that the Lakers can do. I think that they can win tonight. I think if Austin Reeves has a good game, and D'Lo doesn't put up 0 points, he needs like 14 at least. Um, it's tough watching the Lakers try to do anything because I think that their coach is incompetent.
Hmm.
Uh, I think he's the player's coach, but he doesn't give anybody a set role until it's the very last second, and like they might not be ready for that role. Like it yeah, it's hard to talk about as a Lakers fan, just watching your team really fall apart when you look at the talent on the team. That's somebody that I think I know a lot about basketball, and I think that this Lakers roster is um yeah, I'm gonna say it, the best Lakers roster ever assembled in Lakers history.
What?
Yeah,
This
and
Lakers squad? What are you talking about?
I
Jack,
think it is. I think it is. Listen,
the
if,
times with
if
Kareem and Magic, and then you had Kobe and Shaq together. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
now you have LeBron, AD, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura.
Oh, stop it.
Your team's
I
stacked.
know you're a big, you're not a big pass guy. You're like, oh,
It is
this NBA is
stacked.
better than the rest. But it's like you can't seriously look at this roster and go, yep, this is the greatest one ever assembled. If they were, they wouldn't be in the play-in, and they wouldn't be down 3-1 to the Nuggets right now. No, they wouldn't. This
It
is,
has to do
are you
with
going to look at
coaching.
the Lakers won the championship win? When was the last time they won the championship? 2020?
20.
Are we going to say that that wasn't a better team than now? That had LeBron and AD.
Listen, all right.
Come on.
That's you're right. No, I'm not gonna fuck it.
Yeah.
You're right to a degree, but this might be the second. No, I'm telling you, based
Oh
on the
man.
roster. Based on the roster. I mean,
Based on the roster all time, yeah, LeBron and AD, sure, maybe 5 years ago.
if they brought in Dwight Howard for this playoff
Oh,
run,
stop
it
it.
would be a tie series right now.
Stop it.
Because
Best
we have
ever,
it.
best ever Laker team. Are you kidding? And now you're saying it could be the second best? Are you saying that now 2020 is the best? You're putting that over for just an example, the 2010 winning team?
Absolutely.
No, 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 no. Jack.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking down on D Fish and Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol and
You are though. Like you
no.
inadvertently are by saying that this team is the best or the second best Lakers team ever. You are talking down on Kobe and Shaq and Gasol.
All I am truly doing is speaking volumes to how well structured this Denver Nuggets team is. I think that
That's
yeah, I'm helping
slippery
out my
slope to
case
get
here.
there, but all right.
Um, just insane. I think that the Nuggets are they're the team to beat. And I think the only team that can do it is the Timberwolves, and I'm done talking about the Lakers.
I will say this before we're done talking about the Lakers. I just want to say one stat that I did see. I think it was on ESPN. Somebody tweeted about it. The Lakers have led the series for 129 minutes The series has been tied for 14 minutes, and the Nuggets have only led for 41 minutes. The Lakers have just blown leads. It's unfortunate because the Nuggets are obviously expected to win. They're almost expected to win the championship. The Lakers are not expected to even get a game off the Nuggets. The fact that they did was amazing. The fact that they've led for almost triple the time that the Nuggets have led, and they're down 3-1. It's come on. I know they had that buzzer beater, then they had that what was it like 20-point lead that they blew. I know you don't want to. I know you look defeated, and I get it because trust me, it's unfortunate. It really is. But it's like, come on.
Man,
Who do you place the blame on? Do you place the blame on coaching, or do you place the blame on the players for not being able to hold those leads?
listen, um, the players are capable of beating this Nuggets team,
Hmm.
and they have been. Um, w- they could have lost the last game, and I would still tell you that they are capable of beating this Nuggets team. They know that. Everybody watching it knows it. Um, who do I blame? I mean, it's right in front of you. You see these 3 guard rotations. You see these just like terrible pairings where you're putting D'Lo in weird situations where he can't create, or he's forced to not really do what he wants to be doing out there. And then you're putting Reeves in a weird situation where it's like you don't really want him to create either. But that's what they do. They're creators, they're playmakers, they get guys open, and you don't need LeBron doing that 20 20 plus times in the game. You don't. You need LeBron going head down to the rim, getting layups, getting fouled. I think it's poor coaching. I think I think it's sad because you really wanted it to work out with Darvin Ham. Um, and if they don't make the impossible 3-0 comeback, he's gone.
Which I don't know the stat on it, but there can't be many teams that have. Is it really zero?
Yeah. So last year when the Heat were up 3-0 on the
Yeah.
Celtics and the Celtics won 3 straight, but then lost,
Mhm.
they could have been the first team to ever do it.
I did not know that it was like that. I know that obviously, like we said earlier, in NHL, it's only happened 4 times, but I didn't think it was zero for NBA. That is unbelievable. So we'll see if the Lakers can make history. Staying in Los Angeles, going to the Clippers here. Great series. Uh, what's funny is either Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving have led both teams in scoring in all 4 games so far in this series. A Clippers player has not led the scoring in any of the games. Yet it's a lot closer than we than I expected at least. I thought the Mavs would certainly not blow the Clippers away, but definitely at least have a 3-1 lead, not a 2-2. But I mean, hey, Harden and George both put up 33 in game 4, got that big win. And it's a new series. It's 2-2 now.
Right now this Clippers team is working better without Kawhi. The 2 games Kawhi has played, they've lost. And I think if you're the Clippers, you have to seriously think about if for this series, if you want to win the championship, do you put Kawhi out there or do you not? Um, I think the Mavs are figuring it out. I think that, I mean, Luka came into the presser and was like, I need to do more. Damn right, you need to do more. Kyrie dropping 40 on nearly perfect efficiency. Luka's got to step up because we know what he's capable of. He's a 35, 12, and 12 guy. Um, and I think this series is gonna probably go to 7. Um, and it's gonna be a great watch.
And it's probably up to Luca. If
Yeah.
that, like you said, with Kyrie putting up 40 on any given day, that wins a team a game usually. But when you've got 2 players on the other team putting up 30 plus, Luca needs to put up some points of his own for the Mavs to come away with the win, and he simply couldn't do it. as far as series that are probably done, even though the Heat took a game off the Celtics, which I thought was unbelievable. Probably end of the line there for the Heat. Obviously, no Jimmy.
I think they can take another.
You think one more? I could see it.
I think that when they run the offense through Tyler Hero,
Mm.
they get guys open. And when you get guys open, anything can happen.
And
Uh,
we saw it happen.
game one, Caleb Martin wasn't hitting. Game two, he was on fire.
So,
Everyone was on fire.
yep.
Uh, get Duncan Robinson in there, get him popping up threes because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need all the threes you can get. That game two is the blueprint for how you beat Boston. If if you're the Heat, you got to play tough defense and you got to chuck up shit ton of threes,
Hmm.
and they can do it.
We'll have to see. I mean, I would rather the Heat. I mean, you know me. I hate the Celtics. I'm sure you hate the Celtics too. I don't want to see the Celtics win. They probably will, but hey, you never know. You never know. If we have hope in the Lakers, we can have hope in the Heat. Um, Thunder. I mean, they're a team we'll probably talk about in the next couple weeks for sure because they'll go on. They'll probably sweep the Pelicans. I think their game is tonight as well. Um, it's unfortunate from the Pelicans. I thought after they beat the was it the Kings in the play-in that maybe this would be better for them. Obviously Zion, it's tough when you don't have that guy. But this Thunder team is kind of proving everyone wrong. And I know it's hard. It's weird to say that about a number one seed, but out of all the number one seeds, I do feel like the Thunder were or they were the number one seed, correct? I just want to make that clear.
Yeah,
Okay, just double checking. But I do feel like how even with how successful their season was, with how shy was and how amazing he's been, I still feel like everyone was thinking, okay, well, it's still the Thunder. They're probably overrated. They're not that good. They're too young. They're kind of making a statement here. They're saying, hey, listen, we're the number one seed for a reason, and we're going to continue to keep going. That's what I think, at least.
listen, they're making a statement in their own head, but everybody in the league knows that the same thing would have happened if it was the Kings, right?
Mm.
They still have De'Aaron and Sabonis, but their third best player, Malik Monk, is out for the season.
Mm.
So if they won that series, I think we'd be seeing a similar thing going on with the Pelicans. They don't have Zion. Ingram's definitely banged up. He's been in and out of the injury report, and we know what the Pelicans are capable of, like when everybody's hitting. But the Pelicans aren't like on OKC caliber. Let OKC play a team like um like who they're gonna play, either the Mavs or the Clips. That will be a real test for that OKC team, and that will be much must watch basketball.
So just to round off some of the rest of the matchups, I mean, I'm not a Bucks fan, but I do live in Wisconsin. A lot of my friends are Bucks fans, so I tend to root for them when I'm around all these guys. They won game one. Obviously, no Giannis, but now they've lost three straight. They'll face elimination in Milwaukee this Tuesday. Fair to say the Pacers are going to close this one out, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of people underestimated the Pacers. Um
Mm-hmm.
after losing round one or game one with just Dame, no Giannis. You look at the Pacers and they have the guys. Proven they have proven guys. Pascal Siakam has gone to a Eastern Conference final. He's gone to a final. He's your guy.
Won the championship. He won it with
Yeah, he
Toronto.
won a championship.
Yeah.
Um, so when you have a guy like that in your locker room, who's been through some of the craziest playoff series ever, um, that's that's gonna help you win games. And when you don't have Giannis on the floor, it's gonna make it even easier. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Dame's not coming back, right?
I'm not sure. I don't want to put any misinformation out there, but
Um,
it,
well,
it seems like either
assuming
way,
he's not back.
they'll be in Cancun in the next couple
Yeah.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
end of the road for them. And then yeah, just before we get into some quick baseball and soccer, we'll finish off with we've got the Magic and the Cavs in a 2-2 series. That was the boring series, but it's they're making it exciting. Really, they are.
They're the same thing. So
Yeah,
it's the boring series, but it's not the boring series
right.
because we know that both of these teams are capable of winning a playoff series against each other somewhat,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, Magic's showing it. They're showing out.
Yeah.
Um, they can win the series, but I trust the experience of Donovan Mitchell. We've seen what he can do in clutch games when he was wearing the Utah Jazz uniform. Who do you got in this series?
I got the Cavs still. I'm very impressed with what the Magic have done in the last couple of games, and honestly, the way they finished off the regular season was quite good as well. I still have the Cavs though. I think it's a good story for sure, and the fact that they were able to even up the series like they did at home, I think that's amazing, and I don't think we should overlook that. But I'm still going with the Cavs, 100%. That's what I'm going for. And then obviously the last series, Knicks are going to close it out against the 76ers, I think. I mean, come on. What is it, 3-1 right now?
Um, yeah, I think the Knicks are the real deal. I think
They are.
I I think I think I'd be really surprised if they didn't go to the Eastern Conference Final.
I have them winning the championship in my bracket. You know how bad
Well,
the bracket is, but
that's why no one's looking at your bracket.
I already posted it on Twitter. I'm like, hey, listen, like, you have to understand, I've watched 4 minutes of basketball this season. But no, but honestly, I do think that the Knicks the Knicks can go further than just the second round. Whether you think it's the Eastern Conference Final or the NBA Finals, they certainly can go far and they will get past the 76ers. All right, we'll just do a little bit a quick thing going into baseball. We don't really have news about the actual games themselves this week. But we're going to talk about their jerseys. So Fanatics, who were announced as their new manufacturer for this season, came out with these terrible jerseys quality wise. The numbers were much smaller. They shrunk those. The pants were see through. They were ripping. The fans hate them. The players hate them. And finally, the MLB sent a memo out to the MLBPA and saying that by 2025, by the latest, they will get new jerseys. And they're not saying they're going to not do Fanatics. They're just saying that they're going to go back to some of the things. They're going to make the numbers and letters larger. They're going to make sure that the material is better. They're going to use different zippers on the pants, which I guess the players had a big issue with that as well. Um, but yeah, one of the big things was MLB took all the blame away from Fanatics and put it on Nike. But
Hmm.
they said, rest assured, we're gonna fix this. And what scares me is the NHL is moving to Fanatics for next season, I believe. So I'm a little scared.
You would think that Michael Rubin would have something to say about it. He's a very you know, uh he's a he's a he's a figure in sports, and when he says something we listen. He's the Fanatics guy.
Mhm.
And there's a controversy with his company. I feel like he should be saying something. He For all I know, he could be
I don't. Again, he could be. I don't think
going
he
on
has
Twitter
though.
right now. But yeah,
No.
I feel like I would have heard about it.
Right? It's truly unbelievable how terrible the quality of these jerseys have been and how bad they honestly look. I know some people aren't very nitpicky about that, but I am. And they look terrible for the fans, and most importantly, the players don't like playing in them, and they're ripping and they're see-through. When players sweat, they're see-through. It's not a good look at all, and I'm glad they're going to make a change. Like they said, before the 2025 season, that's the latest they're going to fix it by next season. So hopefully, very soon. We'll see what happens there. Moving to soccer, we're sticking with the Premier League over in England across the pond. Arsenal, who have not won a Premier League title since 2003, since we were born, have a chance to win the title, and they've got 3 games left. Manchester City have 4 games left. Manchester City, with that game in hand, are just 1 point behind Arsenal. Manchester City looking to become the only team in English football history to win 4 straight league titles since the league became a thing in 1888. Uh, Jack, is City going to win it like always, or is Arsenal going to defy the odds and take home the title?
Yeah, just even you saying, is Arsenal gonna do that? Like, no, like it's not gonna happen. We all know Man City's gonna stay on top. They've won 5 out of their last 5. Um, they're the team to beat. And Arsenal thinks because they've played one more game and they have one more point that they have a chance. But I think, I mean, I don't know Man City's last 3 games, actually. Let's take a look. Yeah, these are jokes.
Yeah, no, they're so they've got why am I blanking right now? Wolves, Fulham, Spurs, who could be a tough one depending on who
Yeah,
you ask, and West
but
Ham. They're all winnable games for Man City. They really should all be winnable games.
very much so,
Yeah,
especially when you have a team like Tottenham that is so incredibly inconsistent.
yeah.
Um, I see the road for Man City to take home their 4th in a row, and gets me excited.
They absolutely will, and they're becoming one of the better teams in history. Obviously, Manchester United, you could argue, say I would say that they're the best Premier League team of all time, certainly the most successful team. Um, they've got 20 league titles, 13 in the Premier League. Uh, Man City is going to get up there in the next 10, 15 years as the best team of all time. They're doing something we've never seen. Like I said, seeking their 4th straight, seeking their 6th in their last 7 years. Unbelievable. Obviously, Liverpool was in that title race for a little bit. They've choked a lot of games. Arsenal need to get 4 points out of their last 3 games for Liverpool to be eliminated, which will happen. Liverpool will not win the league. It's between Manchester City and Arsenal. And bless you. And I said this last year when Arsenal got very close. Arsenal had the lead on Man City. Man City ended up winning it by I don't remember how many points, 6 or 7 points. Uh, for me, Arsenal's not winning it. They're just not. It's going to be Manchester City. Uh, when it comes to the end of the year, Manchester City is unbeatable in the Prem. They will win, and I don't see it going any other way. It would be interesting. I kind of hope it goes down to the final day because it'd be really exciting. And that's kind of how it went for Manchester City last year, or 2 years ago, I should say. But again, this year it will be Manchester City again. Arsenal will have to wait another year.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal has to win out to even make it
Yeah.
interesting. Hoping that Man City draws a game, which isn't going to happen.
I don't think it will. And it's funny because if it would happen, the most likely scenario would be Tottenham gets a result, which is funny because their biggest rival is Arsenal. So it's like, hey, like, do you want to get a result against City and kind of help your chances at making the Champions League, or do you? I'm not going to say throw, but maybe don't really put it
Yeah, I'm telling.
here there. Yeah, I mean, who knows? And you never know what can happen. I think Arsenal have an easy win against Bournemouth. They've got an easy win against Everton, but that fixture in the middle against Manchester United again. Now
Yeah.
you got Manchester City's biggest rival that could win the title for City. It's really funny how it works out like
Yeah.
that. But it's going to be really tight. And by the next weekly recap, maybe in the next two, uh, we'll see a champion. So that does conclude it. We will hopefully see you next week. We're trying to make this a weekly thing, Jack and I, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we have a name by then. Who knows? Maybe we won't. But yeah, we want to thank you for watching along on this episode or listening, whatever you did, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.